All right. Hey, Cindy, how are you?
Good to see you, Josh. Thanks for having me today.
Good to see you too. Thanks for making time. I'm actually thrilled to be talking with you about what it is that Red Velvet does, because I think as we pivot, and it's funny, um, I heard a little bit of your story of how you started at 9/11 with a real
Yeah.
pivot pandemic. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny, you think about like this thought of pivoting, and we
Yep.
think that, I don't know, growing up, you're like, oh, there's a once in a lifetime thing that's going to happen that's going to make you change. Uh,
Yeah.
you and I are probably similar age demographic. I'm assuming,
I think you're a lot younger than me. Thank you
both
for being
25.
so kind, though.
Yeah, we're both 25, so that's great. Um, but I was in New York during 9/11. I was in
hmm
school, finishing up school there. And so 9/11, housing crisis, pandemic,
Yeah.
there's all these things that cause us to pivot. And so I
Yeah.
think we often say like, oh, this is a once in a lifetime. No, it's not. This is a lifestyle. You're going to have to learn to flow in and out of things.
Yeah.
But I think what you said to me that stood out to me, I want to talk about is, talk to me about the ethos and the texture of Red Velvet, and what makes you so excited to work with clients, because I
Yeah.
think it's going to open a bigger conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks. Well, again, thank you to Juno for having me as part of their masterclass series. I understand that this is a inaugural
Yeah,
event, so that's kind of nice.
yeah,
So I always like to go back to, again, how we got started and how I got into this event or this industry as a happy accident. And I always tell people, if 9/11 had not happened, as devastating as that story was, I
mm,
don't necessarily think I would have been here, because it forced me at that time to reevaluate what I was doing with my career, and did I want to stay in the career path I was headed down.
mm,
I was a business school student, so in our business school they groomed us very well to go down a very particular path. And also, I'm a first generation Asian American, so I was also groomed very well for my parents on going down a very specific path.
sure.
And I decided to kind of deviate from both of those. And I came upon the hospitality industry. And so, as I always look back, and that kind of defined, Red Velvet as a company. And one is that, when someone told me, no, you can't necessarily do this because you don't have the formal experience or you didn't go to school for this, my thought process generally goes to why? Why is it no? Why can't I learn it? Or why can't I figure this out, with help? So going back to what the ethos is of Red Velvet is that, when we look to hire, and as we scale, and even as we come out of this pandemic,
Right.
COVID, 19, one of the things that I have genuinely been going back to is asking myself, what is it about this industry and about the job that I love? And what I love, honestly, comes down to the fact that I love a challenge. I
Mm,
love it when brands know that they need to re-engage with their clients, their prospects, their vendors, their own employees, but maybe they don't know how, or maybe they're a little bored, and they want something fresh. And so then comes in our team of ideating and coming up, what could I do that's within that parameter to make it exciting and to be able to do it again? And then, of course, we've got the execution team, because we don't want to just be ideators. We want to also be the go-to team that you can rely on to actually execute it from beginning to end. And
mm,
then last but not least is to remeasure the ROI. So we did it now. Did we do it successfully? Did it achieve the goals that we set out to achieve? So if it was an internal event, are your employees feeling more of a stakeholder, with your company? If it is an external event, are you selling more products? Do people have more eyeballs on your products? It's those kind of things that drive me, and that's kind of the ethos of Red Velvet. And honestly, for us being around 18 years, that's kind of what we've evolved around, is going back to, what do our clients need, and how do we deliver it in the most creative and also hopefully drama-free environment as possible.
yeah. So let me talk to you about this. Let's use this as our word that we'll
Yeah.
kind of we'll master class through. You talked about deviating away from, and I
Yeah.
think that is a position, a mentality that changes things. So how do you constantly talk to us about, how do you deviate away from what's comfortable and known?
Yeah. So first is, I consider that a little boring. It's not that I want to, I get it. We want to do what we know works. But at
Hmm.
the same time, sometimes people, especially brands, they want to be the first to discover something, maybe produce it the way they did. So I always ask myself, what again can we do this one nuance, one time, and maybe tweak it just a little bit, just enough to make it fresh. because you don't want to deviate so much that people have to relearn, because after all, we're all human. We all, when we go to an event in person, let's just go to a basic in-person event, there are some general expectations. We want to have good signage, we want to have good food, we want to be in an environment that's welcoming, etc. But beyond that, there's a lot of ways to implement in-person events, and that's the part where I challenge us to really think about it and not just do it the same way we've always been doing it just because that's comfortable. And I know that does tweak some people, because the uncomfortable zone is not for everyone, and also the risk, because they're like, well, what happens if it fails? And that's why I always say, hey, then try just bits and pieces at a time so that you feel like you're still in control.
So I'm taking that. So we talk about education, challenge, and inspire. And from an education stance, what I hear you saying is sometimes when we think about deviating or innovating, we think we have to flip the entire aspect over. What I hear you saying is take a step, find something. Let's go to the challenge part. Oh, I'm scared to take a step. Like challenge me, like push me. What do I need to hear? I get it. It's a baby step, but I'm still nervous. Challenge me.
Yep. Yeah. So I will say, here's the thing, is that if you don't try it, how are you going to know it's going to fail? Because your attitude is half the battle. And that's the thing, is that a lot of times people are like, no, I don't want to do that because what if it fails? But what if it succeeds?
Right.
And to be honest, I also go back, if it did fail, as long as you're actually even willing to write that case story post event, people will actually look to you as a leader, as a martyr, as someone willing to try something new. Because here's the thing, is that if you want to survive in this events industry, and I'm going to use COVID-19 as a perfect example, if you had asked me prior to March 2020 how many digital virtual events I actually ever produced, the answer would have been zero. Now, I pitched a lot of them, but we never really sold any, because the clients generally tended to go back to what they liked, which was in person. But it forced us in that situation to learn. And so guess what? I learned real quick what a TV producer does, and I quickly learned what I wasn't good at. So when we needed to bring in additional resources so that we could be good at this, because there is a science to delivering on air. There is a science to delivering quality content digitally. And so guess what? We had to learn it. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, it probably would not have challenged me. So I always tell people, what do you have to lose? And I get it. It's fearful, but at the same time, just take it in little bite-sized pieces, and it's doable.
I love that. And so we talk about educate. So listen, take a step, challenge. What do you have to lose? Inspired. Tell me why I can do it. So, why a little old me? How come I can do this?
So I always tell people, you always listen to those stories, whether it be on social media or on TED Talks, and you hear about these people. But do you realize that they probably failed a lot more times than the one time they're giving you their success story? Exactly. And you can be that. Like I tell people all the time, I go, the reason why you see only the fluff on Instagram or only on our Facebook and social media is because that's what people generally want to hear. But if you actually had time to talk to me in person and let's grab a drink, I'm going to share with you all the times that I failed that led up to the success. But the success is actually what people remember. The failure, honestly, is what you make of it. If you like drown yourself in it, then yes, you're going to end up letting that supersede you. But honestly, I have probably failed more times than I've succeeded, but I generally let the success kind of lead the way versus letting the failure lead me.
Yeah, Cindy, it's funny, whenever you have somebody over to your home, I always kind of talk about how you notice every little, baseboard's not painted, or, that dirt on the wall there. Gosh, the guest never knows it.
Correct.
So I think we notice all of our flaws.
Well, we're also the hardest critic, and we got to stop that. And I'm not saying it's not healthy to have a balance, and be humble, but don't beat yourself up to the point where you can't even proceed,
So we talk about, in our framework, we talk about, okay, educate me. So we've said, don't flip the Apple, truck over, the cart over, just take some steps. Challenge, what do you have to do to fail? And inspire, remember, everyone learns in real time, and it's the collective story that's happening. So the next part of it is, what do we need to put in our life? And what do we need to put out of our life if we're going to bring kind of that innovation, that change? What does somebody need to put in their life?
So definitely is different mediums that you normally don't surround yourself by. So for example, Since I am constantly around other meeting planners or agencies or activation people, I actually try to surround myself by people that are not in that, whether that be tech or whether that even be artists, because naturally I'm not necessarily with someone that's painting all the time and
Mhm.
thinking in that different mindset. Because what you're going to find is when you surround yourself by people that don't do everything like you do, you're going to be inspired by their process and take bits and pieces from their life and apply it to yours. And I think that's actually why my husband and I work out well, is because we're very opposite, but at the same time, we're both running companies that are trying to scale and grow in their own respective industries. And so that part we can lean on each other, but we have such different and wild, people that surround us,
Yeah.
and that helps. Now, as far as you're out, I call these cancer. It's not like literally, but it's like the term is that if you've got negative Nelly and you've got someone there that's constantly just beating you down and telling you no, you can't do that, you need to get them out of your life.
Especially if that's you, right?
Oh yes,
Like
especially if
negative
that's in your
Nelly,
head.
I don't know if you're anything like me, but Nelly seems to be about here. She's here. So part of that is own personal accountability, right? Of like, hey,
Yes,
like
yes,
you said a minute ago, you're your own worst critic. You're your own worst fear monger.
yes,
Like you might be Nelly, and you
yeah.
got to figure that out.
And again, as if you're growing and you're working in a team, if you find someone that's constantly beating you down and beating the team's morale down, I'm going to be honest, you need to have a heart-to-heart conversation and say, "Hey, maybe this isn't the best fit, because what we need is I call it cautious optimism, meaning
Mhm.
we want optimism, the glass half full, but at the same time we get it. We've got to constantly reevaluate and say, is what we're doing setting us up for success, or is it setting us backwards? And are we achieving the level of a task and goals in a timely manner?" And
Yeah.
those are all realistic check marks, but you don't want someone that's constantly telling you, no, oh,
Yeah.
Josh, you can't do that. Or no, Josh, I can't believe you did that again. Or this, because that's just going to hold you back,
Yeah.
and it's not going to get you very far.
No, it's not. All right, 5 quick questions to go through. What do I need to be aware of if I'm going to be somebody that brings innovation and change? What do I need to be aware of?
One, do not limit yourself. Be inspired by kids, be inspired by TV, be inspired by even your dog. Um, don't don't limit yourself, because I think oftentimes people almost again limit themselves to, I can only be successful this way, and that
Yeah,
that hurts.
that's good. What's one choice I need to make every day?
To wake up.
But really, right? Like wake
Yeah.
up. Like,
No, really. Like, so I will tell you a funny story. I am an early bird. I've always been an early bird. I thought I wasn't always an early bird, but then my siblings reminded me that no, you've always been an early bird. So there are times, yes, do I struggle to get out of bed? Absolutely. And then I ask myself, why is that? And that's when I know I need the mental break.
yep.
So check yourself. And if you know you need a mental break, you deserve it. Give it to yourself. But
Yep.
in general, if you know you are a driver and achiever and you like achieving things and getting things done, just wake up, make a plan, and do it.
Yep.
Don't wait for permission from anyone. There is
Yep.
no one but you holding yourself back.
And I think so many people metaphorically are sound asleep. And this is such a great reminder. If you're going to be
Yes.
an innovator, wake up. What's one thing I can think about or I can do to motivate me to change?
So this might sound so cheesy, but I actually do. I mean, it's not so much you call it New Year's resolutions, because I don't like that, because I generally don't follow through on that. But I do ask myself, okay, it's going to be 1 year from now. What's the one thing I'm going to look back and I'm
Yep.
going to be proud to tell Josh when he
Yep.
says, so how was your year?
Yep.
And I give myself just one thing.
Good.
And so because honestly, if you give yourself too many, it's just too much.
Yeah.
And so I tell myself that. And so then I do check on myself every so often and ask myself, how am I doing? Was that a realistic goal? And so, this year it was truly to get our team out of this pandemic, because it went way too long for anyone, because we all thought it was just, a few weeks, a few months. And then it turned into 14 months. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so my goal was, I want our company to be still standing, and I want us to be in a healthy headspace
Yep.
and know what our purpose is.
I love it. I love it. All right. Empathy is the ability to connect and feel what somebody else is feeling. As we get
Yeah.
into innovation and we're pushing people, whether we're pushing a client, give me one piece of advice on how to increase my empathy as I connect with other people.
So I always like to start with the question of why. When we are meeting with new clients, especially, I usually start with, can you help me understand what you've been tasked with from a
Mhm.
tactical perspective, and also what you personally are trying to do within the company? Because it will help us understand where their headspace is at. So, for example, if their executive above them has told them, hey, we're going to IPO this year, there's going to be a lot more going through their mind than just the IPO.
Sure.
There's the scalability. There's, hey, what happens if I don't meet my sales numbers? What happens if I don't meet my team's, satisfaction? All these things, and then also what happens to me once we go IPO? Do I lose my job because I got us there? So understanding where your client's headspace is at is so important. So I
Mm.
do encourage people to ask the whys and not just take the feedback and just make notes of it. Like, I always go back to, so you said this in your conversation, your answer to me. Can I ask why? Because
Mm.
sometimes it may be as silly as like, oh, I went to my friend's party and I love the go-go dancer and that's why I
Right.
wanted one. And I go, oh, okay. Whereas another one might actually say, oh, it's because my boss told me he had to have go-go dancers. And I'm
Sure.
like, oh,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a different answer.
Yep. Yep. All right. One skill I need if I'm going to be an innovator. What's the one skill I need?
Oh, I mean, being open-minded. I don't know if that's a skill or really more of a trait. Um, Really, it is being open-minded. You just got to be you've got to be willing to consider it so that you can move forward. Because
I, I think
yeah,
that's great. I think that's huge. I think, so many times in our life, we don't even have a box to consider. And
yeah,
so, listen, you want to know what a skill is? The skill of being able to consider or the skill of consideration. I
yeah,
think that's a trait too, but it is. Am I considerate, not just
yeah,
of people, but of ideas and opportunities?
yeah.
So listen, Cindy, this was awesome. This is exactly what we wanted was these, 10 to 15 minute micro experiences we can walk away
Perfect.
and go, man, I understand that if I'm going to be an innovator, it's not about reinventing everything. It's about taking a step. It's about having the courage to say, what if it works?
Yeah,
About understanding that failure is part of evolution.
it is.
It's
It
about
is.
getting the dreams and the other people, the inspirations in your life and the negative Nellies out of your life.
Yeah.
And working through those 5 questions of, understanding my awareness, the choices I have, motivation, empathy, and skills develops us to have the ability to be innovators. So thank you so much for taking time just to shape our thinking and help us develop further.
Thank you, Josh, for your time, and thank you for doing the Q&A. I appreciate it.
No worries. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.